auto theft charges, joyriding. Can these charges be dropped? Hi there, I'm Jeff Hampton with the Fulgham Law Firm, and here today on our YouTube video series, I want to go over with you how to beat an auto theft charge in Texas. And by the way, if you wait around till the end of this video, I'll also give you a free ebook, What to Do If You Have Been Charged with a Crime in Texas. Now listen, I want to go over with you today the auto theft laws, just basically break it down for you, because a lot of people throw around a lot of terms that really don't have any purpose or meaning under Texas law. So I want to make sure and clear the air here and make sure that everyone knows exactly what Texas law says and what you need to be prepared for if you or a loved one is facing an auto theft charge here in Texas. Now, here's the thing. Many states have laws that cover they're statutes that cover specific elements of grand theft auto. Now, that's not the case in Texas, though. Texas is a little unique. Auto theft is not covered by a specific statute. It's actually rolled into the basic theft statute under the Texas Penal Code. So we have to kind of unpack that a little bit here. So one of the things that we look at here, one of the considerations is we have to say, was the owner of the vehicle present when we start talking about auto theft? Did they know that you or a loved one was operating that vehicle, but they claim they didn't give you consent later to remain in it or keep it for a certain period of time? Or are they claiming it's just flat out, they don't even know who you are, you took the vehicle? This breaks down based upon the severity of the felony charge based on some of those facts. So grand theft auto is defined generally, if I just speak generally, it's defined as taking someone else's vehicle with the intent to permanently deprive the owner of that property, okay? Now, you can also be accused of grand theft auto if you purchased a car with maybe potentially without a proper title, failed to file that paperwork upon purchase of receipt of an automobile, or if you failed to return a rental. That's a big one, just keeping the rental and deciding not to return it. There is no specific statute addressing grand theft auto, so what we have to do is unpack the statute under the penal code related to theft. Now, theft, let's talk about that for a moment. Under Texas law, theft is broken down based upon value. So the more valuable an item is, the higher the level of the criminal charge you're looking at. So very quickly, anything taken that's under $100, that's a ticket. That's a Class C misdemeanor. But if it's a 100 to 750 value, you're now looking at a Class B misdemeanor, punishable by up to 180 days in jail and up to a $2,000 fine. If it is $750 to $2,500, you are looking at a Class A misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail and up to a $4,000 fine. Theft of $2,500 to $30,000. Now we're kind of getting into the range of what a lot of used vehicles are worth. You're looking at a state jail felony, punishable by anywhere between 6 months up to 2 years in a state jail facility and up to a $10,000 fine. If you go from $30,000 to $150,000, you're looking at a third-degree felony, up to 10 years in prison, up to a $10,000 fine. And then you go up above that. You start getting up above $150,000 to $300,000. That's a second-degree felony, which is up to 20 years in prison. And then if you get over $300,000, boy, it'd be difficult to find a car worth over that. $300,000, you're looking at a first-degree felony. So those are some of the things to be aware of. So many times, one of the conditions to resolving a case like this will involve restitution, or what the value is of the alleged vehicle. This is a big deal, and this is one of the big defenses that I'm getting ahead of myself on this, but one of the big defenses that you can use to fight a charge like this is value. Be very careful. The police have a tendency to want to elevate, or the alleged victim, the value of that item, of the vehicle. We've seen used vehicles that could barely run. I'm talking about a beat up, just beater car that's sitting there, and they try to claim that the car's worth like, 10 grand, but it doesn't even start. And so sometimes you have to kind of look at it intently, really make sure whether or not this item is worth what they claim it's worth, okay? So here's what we need to look at here. The next point I want to bring up is there's something called carjacking. Everyone's heard of this, right? Texas carjacking. What happens on a Texas carjacking case? Well, carjacking is when someone takes a vehicle from the owner or driver using force or a threat of force in order to obtain control of that vehicle. In Texas, Carjacking is prosecuted under the Texas robbery statutes. Okay, that's how it's prosecuted. So a Texas robbery case, or under Texas law, robbery is defined as a second-degree felony, punishable by up to 20 years in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. Now, if a weapon was used during that carjacking, if there's a deadly weapon that's used, you could be talking about an aggravated robbery, which is up to life in prison and up to a $10,000 fine. So that's where you have to really look into this. Now, we don't see a whole lot of carjacking cases, but I think it's important when you start talking about theft generally, auto, anything involving a vehicle, it's good to break that down. Now, here's the big one. What about joyriding? Now, we don't use that term in Texas either. That's a common term that people throw around. Joyriding entails operating a vehicle without the owner's consent, but it's considered a lesser crime because maybe you had their consent to operate that vehicle, but that consent ended and you just continued to operate that vehicle, right? So one that we've actually had come up several times, which is kind of shocking, that dad says, son, you can drive my car to hang out with your friends, but don't you dare drive it to somewhere else, right? Well, what does the son do? He decides this is a case that we dealt with. Not only did he drive it to his friends, but then he proceeded to drive it for another day and a half to wherever he wanted to go. Dad called the police, said, I didn't give my son consent. I gave him consent to go here, but I didn't give him consent to go there. The police go out. They put out a warrant for him. He gets arrested for joyriding, which under Texas law is defined as unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. So the crime to look up under Texas law for joyriding is unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. That is a state jail felony. Now, some people say, wait a minute, I don't understand. I just borrowed the car. Once again, remember, you're talking about consent here. Did someone give you the consent to operate that vehicle in the way that you did it? If not, borrowing can equate to the same thing as theft under the right set of circumstances. And under a state jail felony, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle could land you in prison for up to 2 years and up to a $10,000 fine. So understand, especially on some of these issues related to consent, value, was the actual vehicle worth what they're claiming it is? And was there consent, or did the driver of the vehicle, is the person who arrested, do they have reasonable belief that they had consent to do what the victim's claiming they shouldn't have done? These are big deals that need to be examined by an experienced criminal attorney who has put in the time and the effort in your county to defend these types of charges. Now, if you're facing an auto theft charge, maybe it's a joyriding charge in the state of Texas, and maybe you have some questions and you would like the Fulgham Law Firm to give you a free case analysis and a free case evaluation, don't hesitate to contact our office at 817-877-5200. I also promised you if you waited around to the end of this video, I'd give you a free ebook, What to Do If You Have Been Charged with a Crime in Texas. Click the link below. Be happy to send it right over to you. And I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out our other videos. If you like what you see, subscribe, like the videos, and we'll be happy to send you more regularly scheduled YouTube videos to inform you about Texas criminal law. Thanks again for joining us. Take care.